Did you know there was a particular stretch of North African desert, spanning just a few dozen kilometers, that ultimately decided the fate of the entire Mediterranean? Had El Alamein fallen, the path to Egypt and the vital Suez Canal would have been wide open, potentially altering the course of history. In 1942, the desert was more than just sand. It was a complex web of supply lines, deadly traps, debilitating thirst, and a slow, relentless march towards death. The German-Italian forces, commanded by the infamous Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, had steadily pushed the British eastward. Cairo lay behind them. Suez was within reach, and the very foundation of the British Empire felt as though it teetered on the brink. El Alamein itself was a mere pinpoint on the map, wedged strategically between the Mediterranean Sea to the north and the impassable Qatar Depression to the south. This depression, a treacherous swamp, rendered any wide-flanking maneuvers by tanks impossible. The battlefield was thus confined to a narrow corridor, offering no easy routes of escape. Whoever held this ground was forced into a brutal, head-on confrontation. In August 1942, the British made a crucial change in command. General Bernard Montgomery arrived quietly, methodically laying the groundwork for victory, like a craftsman meticulously placing bricks. He didn't promise a swift triumph, but rather a carefully prepared one. And what he needed most was time to solidify his position. Rommel, on the other hand, was nearing his breaking point. His army was exhausted from long, arduous marches. Vehicles were constantly breaking down. Fuel was in short supply, and food rations were dwindling. Yet, he remained convinced that he could crush El Alamein before Britain had a chance to fully recover. Then, an eerie calm settled over the desert, the silence before the storm. On the night of October 23, 1942, the sky erupted in a cataclysm of fire. British artillery unleashed a barrage of relentless intensity. Explosions rocked the sand, hammered the steel, and reverberated against the human chest. The horizon flickered with incessant flashes, like lightning that refused to cease. German soldiers huddled in their dugouts knew instantly this was no mere raid. This was a decisive moment. Montgomery dubbed the plan Operation Lightfoot. The name belied its brutal reality. Infantry units would have to advance through treacherous minefields to clear paths for tanks, rely on a grim fact that anti-tank mines wouldn't detonate under a man's weight. However, anti-personnel mines were a different story. Battalions advanced in the darkness, under heavy fire, probing the sand meter by meter, their hands trembling, their mouths parched with dust and thirst. Many took only a few steps before disappearing in a muffled explosion. The desert landscape was transformed, ripped apart by trenches, craters, burning wrecks, and thick plumes of black smoke. British Shermans and Crusaders lumbered forward like steel beasts, swaying to the soft sand. Ahead, German anti-tank guns fired at point-blank range, their muzzles flashing like the eyes of a predator. Each successful hit transformed a tank into an instant inferno, leaving crews mere seconds to escape or be consumed entirely. Rommel was absent during the initial hours of the offensive, having been away in Germany due to illness. Upon his return, he witnessed the front line hemorrhaging, but the Desert Fox remained composed. He immediately ordered counterattacks. German panzers roared into the dust and smoke, unleashing fire at ranges so close that the sound of metal tearing against metal filled the air. At times, the battlefield evolved into a chaotic scene of dark shapes sliding past each other, followed by a deafening blast, and then an unsettling silence. However, there was an enemy that Rommel simply couldn't defeat. Supply. Britain had secure sea routes from Alexandria, ensuring deep reserves of manpower, fuel, and equipment. Rommel, on the other hand, was forced to transport everything across thousands of kilometers of desert, constantly under threat of British air attacks. Fuel arrived late, in insufficient quantities or not at all. His army slowly became like a runner forced to sprint with a throat burning dry and legs on the verge of collapse. The battle dragged on relentlessly. Montgomery remained patient, as if applying constant pressure against a heavy door. He avoided reckless gambles, choosing instead to wear the enemy down, maintaining constant pressure and relentlessly pushing forward. By the night of November 1st, Montgomery launched the final, decisive blow, Operation Supercharge. The guns roared once more. The infantry surged forward again. The tanks rolled again. This time, the Axis line began to fracture, like glass splitting from within. Rommel saw it first. He analyzed the fuel tables, the remaining tanks, and the gaunt faces of the Italian soldiers, pale with hunger and thirst. He made the difficult choice to retreat. From afar, Hitler ordered him to stand and fight to the death. But Rommel knew that to stand here now was nothing short of suicide. On November 4th, 1942, the British broke through the last remaining defenses. Axis forces began their withdrawal toward Libya. El Alamein ended not with single, decisive thunderbolt, but with relentless pressure that made holding on an impossibility. For Britain, it was their first true victory after months of demoralizing defeats. For the Axis, it marked the turning of the tide in North Africa. Soon, Allied forces would land in Morocco and Algeria, closing in from the west as well. The desert was vast, but Rommel's escape route was rapidly shrinking. If El Alamein made you feel the weight of every grain of sand, please like and subscribe. It helps me continue to tell history's real turning points, not just through numbers, but through the human experience within war. And after Rommel retreated, how did the chase across North Africa turn into a deadly race that neither side could afford to lose?